What I thought I'd do today is carrying on the theme of Impressionism. So last week I had a look at this Monet and started a demo, basically a copy of that. And then I thought what I'd do today is kind of keep with that idea of Monet and Impressionist, but try and interpret a photograph of my own. So this was one I saw on, a place I saw on Saturday. So I took a quick photo, and I thought I'd try that sort of interpretation. So this is our last week on this particular theme, and then next week go on to next theme, which is, so it's March, no, not March, it's April, isn't it, next week? Yep, April next week. And the theme for next month is watercolours and also sketching mediums. So that's the theme that I'll cover next month. And I thought I'd start off with perhaps some quick kind of skies, sunsets, sunrises, that sort of thing. So that'll be the demo next week. Okay. So what I've done really is I've changed the sky a little bit. I thought I don't want it to stick too close to this. So I noticed in some of his paintings, or particularly in the tree areas, he uses quite a few different colours. So here I've added, I've made a mix with a slightly kind of cerulean-y blue, and you get this almost, it's not quite like the pointillists, but that kind of optical mixing where you've got maybe a slightly warm colour like the lavender colour next to a slightly greeny blue, and sometimes it can make the colours quite vibrant, and I quite like the idea of experimenting with that. The other artist I was thinking to look at was Soraya, but I wanted to try and keep the subjects fairly simple for this project, but I like these sort of things where he's got some quite warm colours in the shadows, but he's also got some quite cool colours and some quite vibrant blue. So it's quite a nice, interesting way of making the colours really sing. Like that, this shadow here has gone really blue, and that's presumably reflecting the blue sky. So that's something that would be quite nice.
You like a challenge?
Sorry?
You like a challenge?
I like a challenge, yeah. But you could, bring a bit of that into this. A simpler subject. So yeah, a little bit of that, and then a little bit of the adding a bit of magenta into the mix to get a slightly lilac-y colour in there as well. The other thing that I find quite hard to do is to resist the temptation to blend all the brush marks, which one of the things that makes the Impressionists quite notable is, okay, there's probably some blending, but there's also brush marks that look very much like brush marks. They don't try and disguise everything. So you can leave a few bigger marks as part of the mix. So that would be the sky, kind of carry that on. And then really I would then probably just carry on how I'd normally work in background to foreground. I can actually see a little bit behind there, which I've just noticed. So that would be the furthest bit out. So I've mixed a grey with some cadmium red and some cerulean. And I'm just going to lighten that a bit with what I've got on my brush, and that would come in about here. And a bit of that in for the background, really. And this lighter version of the sky colour, I'll pop that just in some of these areas here. And then I'll probably just go over with the trees next. So kind of working forward in space, the next bit closer in would be the blossom tree. And it's very tempting to make these two white, because they're obviously white blossom, but what we're actually seeing is the sky is lighter than the blossom, so we kind of make some sort of shades of grey without making it look too dark. So again, I've mixed two different greys, a slightly bluey one, which is this one. So that can, and most of this area is fairly solid, so I can kind of work that in, but perhaps a little bit darker at the bottom. So I've got a slightly darker grey I can mix in here, just to give it a slight shadow. The thing with the Monets is also that he would have built these up in layers and gone back, perhaps over a few days, and some brushwork would dry. So they got quite a sort of, almost like quite a crusty look, dry brush look. So there would be some marks that are, what do you call, almost like a sort of dry brush, trying to think what they're called really. A bit like scumbling really, or something like that. So something that's a bit too light, let's go a bit darker, and add some blue. Probably something like that. So it's sort of working a few different colours into the area. So that's a slightly lighter blue. Let's try a slightly pinky one as well. And fairly small brush marks. And then where we come to the edge, that's where I'll just put some individual, just 1 or 2 individual leaves or dots to dashes to indicate leaves. Yeah, something along those lines. And then things like the tree, the individual branches, I would need to get a really thin brush. I may need to make it a tiny bit more fluid, so a little bit of medium. Just kind of drag that across. Or you could wait for that to dry and then pop those in after. Individual branches and twigs. But I think quite a lot of the Monets have a slightly grainy look to the twigs and branches, so I don't think he's using a lot of medium, he's just popping the marks in, a bit like that. So using like a nice thin long brush, a rigger, will give you a nice. If I wanted that a bit more fluid, I could add a bit more medium to it, a tiny bit of water, and get a kind of a less broken look. So you've got the choice if you want your thin lines. But for this, I think just a dry brush works quite well. So any questions? Okay, right.